Wittgenstein said, "The limits of my language means the limits of my world." Charlemagne added, "To have another language is to possess a second soul." And Socrates declared, "I'm not an Athenian or a Greek, but a citizen of the world." This is really what learning a language does. It expands your world, it gives you another soul, it connects you to humanity without border. When you learn a new language, we just don't add vocabulary. We learn new rhythms of thoughts, new ways of belonging, new ways of seeing the world. But let's be honest, the path is not all that easy. For learners, the challenge is not only mastering grammar or pronunciation, it is the courage. Courage to ask for direction, ask for explanation at a hospital, courage to apply for a job, and sometimes courage to laugh at a joke without feeling an outsider. But those who have never faced it cannot fully comprehend it. There is a nice saying in Korean, "Kwabu sarmun horabiga anda." That means only a widower knows the pain and pains of a widow. Well, we have a similar thing in Dutch. Niemand weet waar de schoen wringt, behalve hij die hem draagt. Yes, both of these mean that you will never quite comprehend unless you personally experience it. Sometimes good intentions lead to bad outcomes, unfortunately. When a foreigner struggles in Dutch language, people switch instantly in English out of kindness, generosity, or efficiency. Whatever is the reason, but this kindness has a hidden cost. It denies practice, it snatches opportunities, and it makes learning Dutch like a mountain that none will ever let you climb. Maybe it's just an exaggeration. Another obstacle is that not all learners have the same flair for language. Unlike other subjects like history, political science, economics, rocket science, it's not about absorbing facts. It's a living skill. Uneven, unpredictable. Some learn quickly, some take ages. Some speak flawlessly, and for some people, just one sentence is like climbing hill. Thus, Dutch learning for integration need not be reduced to the test of speed or perfection. It has to be an invitation to a great journey, not a punishment, a bridge, not a barrier. Damas and Herren, this is your host, Sanjay Sharma, and you have just started watching your favorite program, Expaterience. Today we have two beautiful slots. These segments, first one is first hour. We have a panel discussion on beauty, necessity, and difficulty in Dutch language. And the second part, second hour, is a discussion between two distinguished experts on inclusive leadership and community building. But before I introduce my panel today, let me take you to Nicoletta, who has prepared today's news bulletin.
Thank you, Sanjay. Good morning. This is a special edition of our news segment, focusing mainly on the anti-asylum and anti-immigration riots that took place last Saturday in The Hague, and all the consequences. First of all, what happened? More than 1,000 individuals broke away from an anti-asylum demonstration on Saturday afternoon, sparking hours of violent unrest in the heart of The Hague. The rioters used significant force against the police, journalists and public property, throwing stone, glass and explosives. Armed with improvised weapons like fence posts and signage, they clashed with riot police who were deployed across the Utrechtsbaan, Malieveld and city centre. The violence resulted in serious property damage. Police vehicles were set on fire, bush shelters and traffic lights were destroyed, and the offices of the political party D66 were vandalized with graffiti and forced entry. Emergency services worked throughout the afternoon and evening to restore order. In total, 4 police officers and several journalists were injured. The unrest began when more than 1,000 individuals broke away from a protest and moved toward the Utrechtsbaan, apparently aiming to occupy it. Police attempted dialogue but were immediately met with violence, including glass and rocks thrown at officers. Riot police responded using a water cannon and the mayor authorized tear gas. An emergency order was issued. At Maliefeld, violence escalated further. Rioters used poles and fencing to attack police from multiple locations. Several police vehicles were set on fire. Later in the city center, rioters tried to access the Binnenhof and vandalize the D66 party office. Some remained near plane and were removed by police. Police are calling for witnesses and camera footage to aid the investigation. Next one. 5 asylum seeker reception centers will not participate in tomorrow's annual open house event due to security concerns. This includes one center in Hoofddorp and 2 in Amsterdam. The locations of the remaining 2 centers have not been disclosed by the Central Agency for the Reception of Asylum Seekers in order to avoid unrest. Despite the cancellations, the open house will proceed at 175 other locations. The agency has implemented additional security measures at several centers based on police recommendations, though specific details have not been made public. The anti-asylum seekers and immigrants sentiment seems to arise in all the Netherlands, and on the social media, a new anti-mass immigration has been announced for October in Amsterdam. This week, there have been several protests in all the country. Among them, for example, according to Dutch media, on Wednesday evening, a protest outside a refugee center in Hoofddorp turned violent. Riots broke out following the burning of a Koran. Fireworks and stones were thrown at protesters, the asylum center, and police officers. The unrest then spread to a nearby shopping center, where acts of vandalism occurred and a store was looted. 7 individuals were arrested. The political debate about the riots is still ongoing. After last Saturday episode, the House of Representatives did not issue a joint statement, and the debate turned into a series of strong accusations during the week. It's important to say that the number of asylum seekers arriving in the Netherlands has declined in recent months, leading the government to lower its projection for this year and the next one. This was reported to the Parliament by Asylum Ministers Van Wiel and Keizer, according to NOS. The drop is mainly due to fewer Syrians applying for asylum following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria last December. More Syrians are now choosing to stay in or return to their home country. Even though the number of asylum seekers is going down, the asylum system will still face a lot of pressure in the coming years, say Van Wiel and Keizer, according to the Dutch outlet NOS. That's why the government is working on new measures, and the House of Representatives supports the Emergency Asylum Measures Act and the dual status system. The recent anti-asylum riots at the Binnenhof have caused an estimated 55,000 euros in damage, according to the Ministry of Housing and Spatial Planning. Last Saturday, several historic windows at the House of Representatives building were shattered. The entrance gate sustained such significant damage that it must be replaced. Additional costs were incurred for installing a temporary fence around the gate. The damage followed an incident in which a group of protesters forced open the entrance gate to the Binnenhof construction site. They broke through the fencing, damaged the construction barriers, and smashed windows. The ex-mayor Jan van Zanen on Wednesday, in a report regarding the riots, explained that the damage to municipal properties currently being assessed. Where possible, reports will be filed and the cost will be recovered from those responsible. Residents and businesses that have suffered damage are urged to file a report. Early reports confirm vandalism of police vehicles and public infrastructure around Maliefeld, as well as damage to buildings, street furniture, terraces and glassware near Het Plein. City's official visited or contacted several business owners around the plane on Saturday evening, Sunday and Monday. Most expressed shock at the violence, particularly against the police. While support was offered, many business owners declined immediate help but voiced frustration with the unrest. Further discussion with them are planned. 37 people were arrested during the riots of the last weekend in The Hague. Police have launched a large-scale investigation and are appealing for witnesses, CCTV footage and drone videos from the public to identify additional suspects. And the first court decision already were made. According to Dutch news, a 20-year-old man was sentenced to 6 weeks in prison, half suspended, for throwing stones and branches at police vans during riots in The Hague. He must also pay 1,000 into a victims' compensation fund. His case was considered the most serious among the 14 fact trials held after the unrest. Among the others, 3 teenagers also appeared in closed hearings. One got 50 hours community service, another a 10-day suspended youth detention plus a 20-hour training order, and the third case will be heard later. Let's now move on to some different news. CBS data on tourism released on this September and regarding the year 2024 revealed that the touristic expenditure in the Netherlands reached 111 billion euros in 2024, marking an increase of nearly 6 billion euros compared to the previous year. Dutch tourists accounted for 67.3 billion euros for the total spending, while international visitors spent 38.2 billion euros, reflecting a 5% rise after adjusting for price changes. The tourism sector contributed 40 billion euros to the Dutch economy in 2024, a 1.7% increase from the previous year. Over to you, Sanjay.
Thank you, Nicoletta. We're back in the panel discussion today to unpack these critical questions related to the beauty, necessity, and difficulty. We are joined by 4 distinguished and prominent voices offering different perspectives, yet equally important perspectives. With me is Andrew van Esch. Good morning. He's from D66 Den Haag City Council. He's a member. His portfolio includes social affairs and employment, economy, art and culture, international affairs, and you are also involved in the renovation of the Binnenhof. In case of neighborhoods, you are associated with the Benoordenhout as well as Archipelbuurt. I would like to say thank you for taking time amidst your busy schedule. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much for inviting me. And I hope I can give some more lightness after all these terrible stories that is taking place in The Hague. Do you still feel safe here in The Hague? Do you feel safe? Yeah? Yeah, of course.
We are sitting with you, so we are safe. Then we have Lavanya Mirle. She's from India. She's an international finance and research professional, a knowledge migrant, preparing for her civic integration exam and aiming at a suitable career in the Netherlands. Great to have you, Lavanya.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Also joining us is Selvi Topping from CC7 Europe. She's a Chief People Officer, which is a big responsibility, especially in the current days. And she has extensive experience hiring people from various sectors, skills, and segments. Looking forward to hearing from you a lot. Welcome, Selvi, to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. And finally, we have John Redfield. He's the head of Stichting Vooruitgang door Zelfwerkzaamheid. He has over 40 years teaching experience, especially teaching NT2, the language, Dutch for inburgering as well. And he's assisting people with the civic integration exam. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
To start today's discussion, I thought generally, we need lighter topics, but I would go for a very heavy one and ask for the very difficult question. And if I can start with you, Andrew, my question is Dutch easy language?
No, it's a very difficult language. For me, it was easy because it was the first words that I've heard, of course, because I was born here. Now, it's a very difficult language. At the same time, I think it's also a very beautiful language. And there are only a few countries in the world where it's been spoken. But I love it a lot. But I know that people struggle with it. I work with refugees that I try to help to a job. And for them it's very difficult to find a good job if you're an academic, if you don't speak the language.
Absolutely, I agree, because I think this is very interesting observation here. Whenever I talk about the beauty of the language, people don't seem to be very enthusiastic about it. But, or maybe it's just my exposure to it. My connection with Dutch starts with Andre Hazes.
Really?
Yeah, and I just can't, forget this line. I love because when I heard, the sentences in between. Ja, ik denk nog steeds hoe het was geweest toen je naast me zat hier aan de bar. Ik vroeg, drink je mee? Dat vond jij oké. Toen je proostte naar me keek, werd ik zo mee. It's just like, who would not like that? And visualize this. Mag ik dan bij jou schuilen? Als ik nergens anders kan. En als ik moet huilen, droog jij mijn tranen dan. I think I loved it. So I'm just sometimes confused about why people don't really think it's beautiful. I found it very beautiful. What is your take on about the language, whether it's easy or difficult?
Oh, my experience with the Dutch language, it is for the newcomers in this country very hard to learn the language because they have to translate in their own language before they start. And the main point is that sometimes they feel a little bit afraid to explore themselves with the Dutch language. But it is a courage, it's a courage to pick up the language. And the main point is, you mentioned it already, is the connection with other citizens. If they get the courage to meet with other participants in this country, they will pick up the language very fast. That's it.
Yeah, because according to some categorization, it's very interesting that I think the American Foreign Services, they categorize which languages are difficult or easier, and they think German is more difficult than Dutch, and I found it actually quite difficult, though I love languages, but still I'm getting in my hand on. Salvi, a strong CV comes on your desk, but limited Dutch. Is it already automatic deal breaker for you?
Well, the industries I've worked in is mainly international, where the main language used is English. So it definitely isn't a deal breaker because we look for knowledge in our arena, in everywhere I've worked. And I've worked in multiple countries as well. But looking at Holland, yes, of course, Dutch is a necessity for certain roles, like facilities or when you're dealing with outside vendors. But generally, for me, if a really strong CV comes in, I look beyond that. For me, it's key critical, the knowledge and actually the acquisition of English.
Okay. Lavanya, can you tell me how many languages do you speak?
Well, I speak around 5 fluency in 5 languages.
5? Which are they?
The Dutch is on the way.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
6 languages, you can say, yes.
Which language are they?
Well, 4 languages are Indian language. One is my native Kannada. And Tamil, well, it's one of the neighboring state. And also Sri Lankan, they speak Tamil.
Yeah.
And Telugu, that is also a neighboring state in India where I speak. And of course, we have our official language, Hindi, which is a must in India. And of course, the English. So I'm fluent in these 5 languages. And now I am learning Dutch, A1 level, I should say. So it's
A1.
just basic Dutch, yeah.
Perfect. And if you compare your, looking back at your experience, do you think Dutch is on the difficult side, or mostly you can compare with one of these languages that you have already known?
Well, it depends. It depends from person to person. As they say, not all 5 fingers are the same. Some find it really easy, where they can learn in a span of maybe 6 to 8 months. And there are other people who struggle, just to struggle to pass A1 level Dutch. Because luckily Dutch people are, the population here speak, mostly everybody speaks English.
Yeah.
And Dutch people are really so sweet. Immediately when they see an immigrant, they're happy to switch to English. So as immigrants, we feel that learning Dutch is not that of a necessity when you are in a new country here. So yeah, it all depends on person to person.
I was just, I think recently I saw somewhere this manifesto by MBO Rad. I think it came in July 2025. And they mentioned that the integration level of Dutch is set quite unrealistic. They find it's not really achievable. At the moment, I think it's B1. It used to be A2 level. So what do you think about this? Do you have any opinion?
Well, you know, it is a difficult language. And of course, if you are working in an environment where you only need to speak English, you think, well, why bother, you know? And I know lots of international that come here and join a job for 2, 3, 4 years. Why bother learning this language? Maybe at the coffee machine you can say a few words, but that's it. I can understand it. At the same time, if you're staying here longer, especially for refugees, it is very important, because the moment when you speak some of the language, and A2 is first grade school, and B1, you know, it's a secondary school level. It means that you have a larger vocabulary. You can also, if you speak the language, you can go to the culture and the heart of the people. And if you really want to connect, and Dutch people, we know that it's a very hard language to learn.
Okay.
And we love it if people make an effort. And of course, we are sometimes very impatient. I think, oh my God, it takes very long, this sentence. So we switch into, you can speak English. But at the same time, there are also people, I know you can get this button that says, speak Dutch to me, spreek Nederlands met mij.
Yeah.
And if you use that button and you point to it, then people will make an effort to slow down for you.
Yeah, I was just recently had a look. There's a, I'm also tuning into this Makelaktal at NOS, a public broadcast. To my amazement, they are actually addressing 2.5 million audience here. 2.5 is a big number out of 17 or 19. And the target groups are elderly people, people with the learning, abilities or problems, or those who are learning as a second language. So they are using simpler words in a colloquial tongue. So that's one thing. And the second is, I think, again, in January 2025, Gemeente Arnhem. And I think they were also joined by Leeuwarden and Haarlemmer's mayor. They had a circular in which they asked that people can ask for a second draft or easy draft for an official mail sent by Gemeente if they don't understand it. So, John, my question to you is, what is the idea behind it? Is that people don't find it easy to understand official text, or?
Dutch is a very difficult language, that we all know about that. And learn a language is very difficult, the Dutch language. It is a challenge for other participants who don't live in the Netherlands. The basic is to get involved in contact with Dutch-speaking people. Learning a language is not only attend classes. Learning a language is get in contact with Dutch-speaking people. About Leeuwarden, and I had not enough information about this item. But about Den Haag, we know that there is an integration course on A2 level and also on B1 level for integration. And there are indeed some discussion about the level, because you came from your own country with your own language, your native language, and you have to build a living in the Netherlands with a new language, the Dutch language. And sometimes you have to start at A0 level and to pick it up. How you can pick it up? Attend classes? No. Get involved with other people in this country to help you. They will help you. The button, spreek Nederlands met mij. That's it. Go, meet with them and talk with them. The main issue is, that is my experience, they come in the classes 3 hours, and then they go back to their own language, English or Spanish, things like that. Exactly. And that's the main issue about this.
Okay. Were you also aware about this?
Yes, of course. No, I know it because, and the funny thing is, most of the time the kids learn the language faster, but the parents then insist that at home we speak our own language because otherwise the kids lose their own language. Whereas it's better to talk Dutch at home as well because you can practice with them. But yeah, it's up to people what they want, of course.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right. Selvi, as a HR professional, how do you value the competency in Dutch vis-a-vis these diverse languages the internationals bring to you? How do you assess, like, what I need more?
The competency in Dutch really does help for integration, and a lot, living in different countries myself, to know the languages really helps. It gives a sense of comfort. It helps you to integrate, and like you said, to get to know your Dutch neighbours a lot better. However, in the current company I work with, CC7 Europe, we have 28 nationalities. So you can imagine the different languages that cross around there. So to try and say, we need Dutch or we need a specific language where the common international language is English, it helps. However, that doesn't exclude the fact that I would say 80% of our population are learning Dutch, not just to get their inburgering and get their residency, but to also integrate as well because they find it a lot easier. But going back to this, the Gemeente putting letters. So for me, Google Translate is excellent in trying to get through, and it helps me in my day-to-day job as well. But I agree with you. Speaking is the key. I've been here a while, and I've been trying to learn Dutch, which sounds not so beautiful, but it is a beautiful language when you translate. However, yes, when people don't reciprocate or when you don't practice it on a regular basis, it is really difficult. But, going back to your original, to me, a lot of people do it out of their own will to learn Dutch, not necessary to work, but they want to genuinely integrate into the community and make life a bit easier for them.
That's right, that's true. Lavanya, in terms of social cohesion, we are talking about integration. Do you think this language learning should be individual responsibility, or you would say it has to be state-supported necessity? What do you say?
Yes, of course, it should be an individual responsibility while speaking. But on the other hand, it should be two ways. It should not be just an immigrant here trying to learn Dutch to integrate into the community, but it should also be an effort from the government as well. As an immigrant, yes, it's our duty to learn the language so that you get to know the culture, the people, so that you get included in them. It's not like, or else we feel we are very isolated, not knowing the language or the culture. So, as Ms. Toppings, she said, there are like a multi-diverse culture under one roof working. So automatically we switch to English. So that's being an official language here. So there are times where, as Mr. Andrews said, like the coffee machine breaks, where you need to talk that so that you don't feel left out.
Yeah.
So these are also things we need to consider. We are not just here as a temporary expat. We need to be included in the culture here. So I think yes, and considering learning the Dutch, as mentioned before, it is not easy for some people, and some people it's easy where they learn in a span of maybe 6 to 8 months. But as immigrants, we put more efforts in learning the language to show our respect to the Dutch community. Yes, we are learning the language here. In between these, we will be juggling between our jobs and our family. And yes, settling in the new country. And if your children are studying in Dutch schools, of course, the whole curriculum will be in Dutch. And parent-teacher meeting, please don't even talk. Everything is in Dutch. So we don't want to be left out. So that is also one of the reasons, yes, we have to put in the efforts.
Yes. Parent-teacher meeting must be very hard. Huh?
Talking about included is a good idea, but the will to include, that's it.
Yeah.
Because what we notice is that the people, they go back in their own situation. Hockey
Exactly.
club, things like that. Yeah. Go and meet with other people. And in that way, you can be included and learn the language very fast.
Exactly. It's just like, they say train the muscle. Just every day you need to train. So language is also a thing like where every day you need some practice, not just 1 hour or 30 minutes or something you learn and you just close the book. I'm done. No. No, actual learning comes when you interact with the local people.
Yeah, interaction.
Yeah, interaction is important
And to
here.
be honest, I mean, living in the Netherlands, I mean, learning Dutch is difficult, but for the rest, it's pretty easy. Things are well organized, and I speak with internationals for decades already, and even when they have to leave because they are get a new posting somewhere, and they say, well, I hate to leave it because it's really nice, and especially in The Hague. So the only thing is that language, that Nederlands. But if you also don't try to. That's what I always say. Tell the refugees, don't try to be perfect.
Yeah.
Just try. Just use the words. Keep on, because our brain will make it into a normal sentence. But
Just fall and raise,
yes,
yeah?
of course.
Fall and raise.
Yeah.
And that's why our slogan is, taal verbindt ons allemaal.
Yeah.
If you know the language, even English or you name it, you get involved with other people.
Exactly.
So you get connected with each other. Taal verbindt ons allemaal. That's the main issue, and that we have to go for.
And I think here, especially because when I arrived, my kids were young and now a lot older, but getting them into the football clubs, the local football clubs, and in local sports, which is really structured and set up here, you do interact with the local community. You do, although they're absolutely willing to talk English to you, if they see you're trying, they do. Especially where I live, it's a small area just outside of The Hague, and even if I go in and say my Netherlands niet goed, they're like, no, it's really good, and they carry on. I'm like, okay, but it is, and that's what you need, a bit more of that community spirit to try and really encourage you. But going back to you with the children learning, my children speak fluent Dutch, along with other, and if you take it in the concept of living in Netherlands, it's great because they teach us, and much as what you were saying with the badge, they get frustrated when I'm trying to talk Dutch and just say it for me. However, I think looking at a wider context, as you said in your introduction, the more languages you have, the more of an international citizen you become.
Yeah.
And although Dutch is not spoken as an HR professional, the fact that you've acquired another language is something that you've seen them going over and above. So it shows that, individual perseverance and everything to go to. So I do think it's a mix of both, the self-willingness to do it, but also the support, that there is governmental support in these clubs, in everything that you do. So
Does your company facilitate also learning Dutch?
we did before. We had a volunteer that was we did before. We had a volunteer, but what we try and do is facilitate, negotiate subsidies with companies that provide Dutch lessons so that people can do it. But to be honest with you, we found that most of them just go on their own initiative and want to do that. Yes.
En de basic is, wanneer ze tegen jou zeggen van, mijn Nederlands is niet goed, then you have to give them the tool and say, maar ik begrijp je wel. Ik begrijp je wel. Yeah, that's so you give them the encourage to go
speak.
for it. To go for
Yeah.
it.
That's very interesting, John. Given that internationals come from all different, economic backgrounds, what teaching strategies do you apply to cater their, individual needs? Because some are able to pay more, less, longer hours, and their level of language also requirements are also different. How do you have any strategies for that?
We start with the intake to check what their basic Dutch level is. And on that we start up to A0, A1, like that. That's the process we make use of. And as I already said, you can learn the language in 2 hours or 3 hours. You have to practice. There are online options. Yeah, you can make use of, and also we advise them to go to the library and get Dutch books and try to read it, and make use of books with pictures with your kids, and go practice with your kids. And so you can help your kids and you help yourself in that way. And as he already said, kids are very quick to pick up languages, not only Dutch but also English.
Any language,
yeah. And
words.
Yeah, words. And then your kids can learn, can help you also with the language. One main advice is also watch jeugdjournaal with your kids. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that brings me to the language learning policies. Andrew, I would like to know if there are any measures in place to track and validate whether these prescribed levels actually help or lead to better integration and employment outcomes.
Well, I can give an example. I'm not only being a politician locally is not a full-time profession, but I also have an foundation that's called Global Talent Pool, and we help high-skilled academic refugees to a job at their level. Because if you're a doctor or a lawyer and you want to do that kind of job in the Netherlands, then it's very difficult to get that job if you don't speak the language.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're somebody from Yemen, he was specialized, he had a PhD in artificial intelligence. Yeah, he can work in a company, but he tried already for 4 years to get in. So he just lacked the professional network to get in, but now he's working as a teacher at the Amsterdam University. For others, it's very difficult, and what we try now, because if you go you're forced to learn Dutch for your inburgering, but then you get like 2 times 3 hours a week, and that's not enough.
Yeah.
So what we did, people have to come in at the level of A2, and then we teach them in 1 year to go to B2 level.
Okay.
And that means that they have language lessons in a school, 2 half days, and then they have language skills with volunteers, and then they also have homework, and then we teach them also, and everybody, we had a sort of pilot program of 1 year. Most of them had a job within 8 months. And and sometimes they don't have to have that B2 level, but it helped them a lot. Even in jobs where they have to work that is more into communications, where they have to learn the language a lot. But it is possible, and it means also for the Dutch government, because people get unemployment money,
benefit,
that it cuts them with 2 to 3 years. And for the people themselves, for them it's vital, because they're here to stay. They want to start a new life in peace, in safety, and if you speak the language, it's vital to do so. But for internationals that travel around, it's less important, and I understand it. So, but I still think, but I'm
and
repeating what I already
some
said.
companies they provide in-company training for their employees. There's also a good opportunity to learn the language
because
after the normal working hours, after 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock, in-company training. That is also so you have them in the company and you help them to learn the language. It cuts both sides.
Yes.
Yeah, it is better for the company and also for the employee.
Yeah, because a lot of companies, they're looking for new employees, and it's very hard now in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So they import them from all over the world.
Yes.
But the refugees are already here.
Yeah, yeah.
And some are, or a vast group is high skilled. But they lack the door to get in. And that's how we come in. But there are a lot of people that are already here. They have the papers, they have a house.
Yes.
They are very motivated, so think about it.
I am. That's it. You've got some things going on in my head. But on the back of that, so I'm a governor at the British School of Netherlands, and we have what we call, which I hate the phrase, trailing spouses.
Yeah.
So they are usually highly educated people that, have relocated because of their partner's jobs. And when you talk to them, because I'm involved in the parental committee there as well, there are really highly skilled people, and they struggle with trying just as much, and they're allowed to work here. They're in situ as well. So a lot of them do try and get the Dutch language underneath, but a lot of them, similar to the AI person you mentioned, just can't get in.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. If you hire someone that's in situ that knows Dutch, they've got the international background and the highly skilled, then they can also integrate people in the company with Dutch as well. So it works both ways in that sense.
Just follow up are there strict Dutch language requirements in companies? And if so, then how does it cost to you, skilled workers when you have to follow it?
It's really interesting because I was talking to a colleague the other day, and her friend is a developer in a company in Amsterdam. And there is no strict requirement for Dutch. However, when she sent instructions on doing something to a colleague, the colleague said, "Can you pass this over to someone else because it's too complicated, I want it in Dutch." So it can be a bit confusing. For me, it really depends on the role. So if I was heading up HR, say at a local store like, an Albertine or a Jumbo, to me, Dutch is a necessity. You cannot do the job without being able to communicate to the main staff, which majority speak Dutch, or know the legislation or deal with it. So for me, that is a necessity. But then you've also got, especially in The Hague, a lot of international companies. And more, the Dutch government, they encourage startups with international. So for me, it's more of what you were saying, a personal desire to get Dutch, as opposed to the necessity to have Dutch as a barrier to getting a job here.
True. Lavanya, given your education experience and niche expertise, do you find enough opportunities in English-speaking roles?
Well, there are some, as when you see, for example, the job search engines, where the job description strongly matches your profile, but they add like a hard filter, language in Dutch fluency.
Okay.
That's where you get filtered out. So we feel like we are locked behind the doors. And I know few people who are like, I know this one acquaintance who is a very good friend of mine as well. She was a nurse working in ER, emergency room. But she speaks her native language. After coming here to the Netherlands as a dependent, as her spouse is working here, now she is forced to take a survival job. Anything, as sometimes I feel like immigrants, they randomly apply for any jobs that's available.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's sad, and we feel like somewhere our talent and skill is being wasted. So I think the bar should be just lowered a bit. They shouldn't make it more rigid. Like, yes, B1 level or B2 level Dutch is a requirement in your job profile. No, I understand there are some job profiles like healthcare or customer care, where, as Ms. Topping said, yes, Dutch is necessary because you're interacting with the commoners or the localites here. But there are also some jobs which doesn't need to be involved. The speaking is not involved. It's just in-house where everybody speaks English. So I think, there are some barriers. and there are some difficulties also in finding the right job.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think so you have.
What I also advise my students is to look for voluntary work. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
also-
startup. Voluntary work somewhere, 2 hours, 3 hours, so you get in contact with Dutch-speaking people. If you sit at home doing nothing, watching your own TV program like that, you don't learn. Go out, look for a voluntary job,
Yes.
even if it is 2-3 hours a week. You get in contact with
Yes,
Dutch
building a
speaking people.
network.
Yeah,
Yeah,
building a network.
network.
And when
It's
you have the
important.
network, it's easier for you to go and move in that network.
In The Hague, we have a fantastic center for volunteers. They even have it in English. It's called Volunteer The Hague. It's it's huge, and there you can go. It's like, go into a job agency and look for all kinds of volunteer. And sometimes also they need people, when there is of course they need it to entertain older people, or to, but also for conferences or big events. And it's really fun. It's really fun. I don't have to do it anymore because I do volunteer work the whole day. But
But Andrew, given the current global economic scenario and the trade scenario that we are in, how critical it is, in your opinion, to adapt a favorable talent acquisition policy or change it by relaxing, as she was mentioning, the strict language requirements?
Well, I think because we all work with all kinds of algorithms and filters. That also is, if you put the filter a bit to B1 instead of B2, you get more applicants.
Yeah.
And that's just a very simple way to get more people through all those barriers. And also we have to understand that the people, if they are working in the Dutch language organization, then they learn the language much faster.
Yeah, that's correct.
So give them an opportunity, because people, it's not the only talent that they have to speak a language. They also have other talents. And in some jobs, and I totally agree, you don't really need to speak fluent Dutch, because you're using your hands or you're working in a laboratory.
Yeah.
And in that sense also the Dutch government is a bit overreacting in that you have to learn the language, because for some jobs you don't need to.
Exactly.
And it's very important to get in, but that's also for HR people to realize that,
Yeah.
and to put the filter a bit, mild.
I mean, coming from the HR perspective, my philosophy is always look at potential. So if you see someone with A1, my natural assumption is that they're going to go beyond the A1 to the A2 to the to the Bs. So for me, it's looking at that potential, and the fact that they've taken that step to learn the language in the first instance again shows that internal motivation and driver, which is not only a positive for integrating and bringing Dutch, but also a positive in terms of the workplace, because it shows their internal motivation and their willingness to grow with it as well. So definitely, I think lowering the filter brings in more potential people that probably has the motivation and drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that context, John, do you notice a kind of a discrepancy or significant gap between the company's expectations of new candidates speaking and the candidates' ability to learn, pick up in a quick period of time, especially when we have for embroidering that time duration is 3 years or so?
Yeah.
How realistic it is, and how big is this gap in your observation?
Working in the Netherlands in a Dutch company speaking Dutch is another issue about integration. When you go for the integration course, your goal is to become a Dutch citizen, and they focus on that. And the relation with the company is you have skills from your homeland, and to work in the Netherlands, there are other needs. The Dutch language is one of the needs you need to have. So you have to work both sides for your integration course, focus on that, and to learn the language to be a good employee in the company. Because that's two different issues. And nowadays the integration course is almost, from some groups it is on A2, still on A2 level, and for other groups it's on B1 level. And our experience is the B1 level is very, very hard for...
B1 is hard.
I agree.
yeah, the
Okay.
B1 is very hard. Yeah.
Is it in terms of like grammar, or what makes it hard?
It's also the grammar.
Grammar part.
It's also grammar. And B1, you need more skills to speak the language, to write correct sentences, to in grammar. That's it. And speaking as well. Speaking in a correct way. Yeah, because you can speak, but is the way you speak correct that the other people, the person can understand you? That's it.
So if given a choice, you would say that initiation should be at a A2 level rather than B1? Just personal opinion.
Yes,
I'm
it's a
not
personal
asking for-
opinion. That is a discussion going on
Discussion going on.
nowadays.
Okay.
And I hopefully that the gemeente, they pick this up and try to get in contact with the schools with the experience, and so they will go through it and make use of the input of the schools to look what they can do about that. They have two things. They put you in the B1 level, and you have to make 600 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you make the 600 hours and you go 3 times for the exams and you don't pass,
Yeah.
then you can go back to the A2 level.
Okay.
That is very complicated, and you expect from them that they have to do the exams, they have to finish in 3 years.
Yeah.
So that is
No, I think Rotterdam gemeente is experimenting with that. Recently, they had it with the refugees. So they said that it's better actually to stop them. Instead of doing that, they can go for the Z route or Z route, where there is no exam, just like a couple of limited hours, and then they can start working. And while at work, they can pick up much easier. That is their idea. Well,
that is the same procedures in this is also in Den Haag.
Okay.
There's a set route, and but when they go for the intake at the gemeente, most of them get the advice to go for the B1.
Oh,
That's it.
expectations are quite high here. Well,
You can do it.
you can do it, yeah. If only you work hard.
Yeah, of course.
Well, we have talked about all the issues about the economic constraints and the ability of that. So I would like to focus just a little bit time for a way forward. So Lavanya, if you could tell me what would help you the most at the moment. Is it like workplace training or more classes or simply more English, friendly opportunities? What do you think?
Well, as to start, I would think that the companies here should hire the immigrants just with some basic Dutch, just to start off with. Anyways, of course, there is official English language there. And if not, then maybe they should start more of internships or traineeships just to enter the job market. Maybe it's a 3-month or 6-month contract basis. This builds like a confidence within us. Yeah, we can do. Maybe later on we can move to A2 or maybe B1, B2. We can move on later on. So I think this should be the initial step that the company should take, not being harsh on the immigrants.
Candidates, yeah.
Yes.
I think then the best person to ask is Selvi. Do you think this hire first and train later is the best model, ideal model to keep the committed manpower?
Absolutely. Like I said before, I always look for potential. Even if you're saying that they need this X, Y, and Z, if they have the X and half of the Y, then why not? And when they interview and you see that potential, for me, it's always looking at the potential. So I absolutely agree. Hire first and train later would be, and it probably would have a longer term effect because you invested in that person, and that person's likely to stay with your company a lot longer as well.
That's true. John, what is the most attractive or effective way to accelerate Dutch learning? It's all available, methods, so that people can see silver bullet.
Yeah.
Get a Dutch partner.
Try to make it simple, not too complicated. Yeah.
Can you elaborate what it is?
Hopefully, this setting will help the people who are involved with this item. Will pick this up and look for new challenges to give the opportunity to our new citizens to learn the language on low basis, and then pick them up to higher level. That's the way, and not to have an intake with them and they say, okay, you go for the B1 level. That is our experience, is that the students, it's very difficult for them and they get very disappointed. They are not enthusiastic about that. They come to school, they don't come to school. The challenges is not there. There's not enough challenge for them because the level is too high for them. And they know if they go for the exam, they fail for the exam, oh my God, I have to go back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah?
Yes.
Give them the opportunity, the challenge to go for it, to go for a goal, and step by step, start with other modules.
Yeah, on that note, I would like to add a point. A B1 level is a very, difficult to even reach the level, right? So somewhere behind our minds, we do have the stress of failing. Yeah, failing means retaking, where you need to invest more time and more money.
Yeah.
It's niet goedkoop. They say, exams. It's very expensive. Each exam is somewhere around 50 euros. So you need to invest more time and more money. And yes, we do have the fear of failing.
And if they don't have a job, how they survive to learn
Yes.
You can get a loan from Duo, but after all, you have to pay it back with interest.
Well, the topic is such, I can go on and on and on. There are so many questions, but we have a time limit here. So the last question, Andrew, I would like to pose to you about what is the vision. Yes, of course, on one hand, we want inclusion, people inside, but at the same time, we also want to retain the national language identity. What is your vision that you can actually bring them together, and how to do it in 1 minute?
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, that means that I have to give a sort of a summary of what's already been said. Of course, The Hague is not Zwolle or Haarlem. We are a UN city. We have about 180 nationalities living here. We can't expect all those 180 nationalities to speak Dutch. So there is the lingua franca, that's English. At the same time, we also live in a Dutch environment. And if we want to get the interest and the sympathy also of the Dutch people, I already said it's good to learn a little bit of Dutch. At least, to make your way at the Jumbo. You said Jumbo.
Oh, yes. There you go. Correct pronunciation.
Very fancy. That sounds very fancy. But that means that it is very important that we make an effort because we're traders in the world, so we have to speak other languages. That's what we do as a Dutch nation. At the same time, we feel honored and also cherished if you learn a little bit of our
Thank you very
words.
much. It's to the point. Today we clearly see that there is a paradox. Dutch is both a bridge and a barrier, and the challenge is to find a solution that respects both identity as well as embracing the talent. I would like to thank you all and look forward to having time to sit together again to continue the conversation. This discussion, in fact, is not going to end today. Language is evolving, and so is Dutch job market. Plus, there are people like Anupama who always have a keen and distinctly lighter take on language. Let's see what she has to say.
Hello everyone, or as they say in Dutch, actually I have no idea what they say in Dutch, which is kind of the whole problem. We all are seated here just to discuss this one. So I moved to the Netherlands thinking everybody speaks English, right? I mean, they wear bike instead of helmets and balance their toddlers on the handlebars. How hard could it be? Spoiler alert. I recently learned that job hunting for an expat here is, looking for a vegan option in a bitter ball stand. It exists theoretically, like unicorns and Dutch sunshine. Yeah, I mean, I did all the right things. I networked, I smiled at the strangers, I even tried to learn how to say Utrecht without even sounding like I fell down a flight of stairs mid-sentence. Still, nothing. So after a lot of rejection emails and bribing the Dutch custom agent with lots of stroopwafel, I finally landed a job in international logistics. Sounds impressive, right? Unless you know that half of my job is translating the Dutch invoices and pretending that I know what Belastingdienst wants from me. Why are they after my money? I once negotiated an entire shipment with emojis and a bit of Google Translate. My proudest moment was using poop emoji to describe custom dealers. And they got it. We bonded, really. So they said everybody speaks English in Netherlands, which is right. Yeah, I mean, a lie, maybe, half-truth. But it's actually, basically, it's true. So everybody speaks English in Netherlands until you apply for a job. Yeah, the truth that no one warns you about, that the actually skill that needed for a job is not experience here. It's Dutch. D-U-T-C-H-H-H. Why have I added extra H's here? Those H's for expat, those H's means, haha, good luck. Okay? So, I mean, I tried to learn Dutch. Week 1, I was confident. Week 2, I realized Dutch is what happens when a German and a English have a love child and raise it in a haunted windmill. Yeah. Once a recruiter told me, can you say Scheveningen? I said, no. But I accidentally summoned Voldemort while trying to say that. So yeah, I mean, fluency in Dutch is the secret handshake. It's a golden ticket, the G in Go Home Expat. Yeah, I mean, they are saying, recruiters are like, oh, we are a very international company. And the job description says fluent in English, Dutch, Spanish, Mandarin, Polish, and preferably Morse code. What? Am I applying to UN or a cheese shop? That's really hard. And one recruiter told me, I think you will feel excluded in our Dutch-speaking office. I said, no, I have a family WhatsApp group where I've been excluded since 2014. I will manage. I don't have FOMOs. All I have is ROMO, relief of missing out. So please don't worry about me. And they are like, oh, you are Indian. Indians are good at languages. I said, yes. And you are Dutch. Aren't you good at tolerance? Aren't you? You are more tolerant, I believe. Yeah, you should be. And then one recruiter told me, do you know the difference between inkoop and verkoop? I was like, is it upselling versus downselling? And they are like, you'll hear from us. Still waiting? Possibly via a career pigeon or a smoke signal, but I'm waiting and I'm hopeful. Huh? So yeah, you all guys have tried Duolingo, right? Yeah, the sweet little green owl. It says, translate the cow drinked water. I said, cool, the cow drinks water. No, it's the cow with more phlegm. Thanks, Satan. Yeah, and then it says, can you say, the schildpad draagt een zonnebril? That means the turtle wears a sunglasses. Have you ever seen a turtle wearing a sunglasses? Anyways, but if it has a seafreight experience, maybe I'll hire him. One person should get a job. Yeah, they always start in English. And, in a few minutes, they're like, would you mind continuing in Dutch? I said, yeah, very much. I also have to show off. Yeah, of course. So I was like, ik werk, ik heb een hond. which means I work, I have a dog, because I can't say much. And they are like, I confess to something in front of them. They are like, this is the one who is later going to cry harder in Albertine parking lot from week 3. They were so sure. Once I even say, not yet, when they even ask me if I spoke Dutch. They smile politely like, I volunteer to build a windmill by hand, blindfolded with spare IKEA parts. So this was the level of confidence. And Dutch people are direct, unless you are a sensitive soul like me. Dutch people are direct, which is great. But I am a sensitive soul, and in one interview, they are like, would you mind telling me your weaknesses? And I'm like, oh yeah, weakness. So sometimes they are like, too slow. Next question. I didn't even open my trauma folder yet. They didn't wait for it. And they're like, you're not a cultural fit. Not a cultural fit. I biked here in rain with him, umbrella, and a broken dream. If that's not Dutch, what is? Wow. Another job says Dutch is preferred. It's like saying, parachutes are preferred for skydiving. Oxygen is preferred for breathing. Technically optional, but practically suicidal. Yeah? You all must be agree. And someone once said, we are open to hire international, but then I saw their team photo. It was like a missing person poster of a rowing cult. 12 eerily identical blonde men named Urine. Blinking in unison like they have been held hostage in HR orientation since 2015. I'm like, okay. One recruiter said, I want someone who fits seamlessly into our Dutch-speaking, fast-paced office. I'm like, okay, sure. Let me just download a new personality and a childhood. Maybe it will be better for me, otherwise not this way. Now, this one is nice. This take is very nice. So they say that finding a job is a full-time job in Netherlands. Except this one does not pay, has 0 benefits, and slowly strips your dignity like a budget burlesque show. One rejection at a time. Some of the job profiles says more like, dating profiles. They are like looking for someone passionate, flexible, fluent in Dutch, and ready to go to the extra mile. I was not sure if I'm applying for a job or agreeing to a long-term situationship. Long-term situationship from the micromanaging HR. That's really clingy. Really. But, after all of these efforts, I somehow landed a job in English. What they did not mention is suppliers email in Mandarin, invoices in Dutch, and product description is something called technical Flemish. So the Google Translate is my only soulmate. We even cry together. We are almost married. Yeah? So this is the thing. Here meetings are really wild. If you are an expat, you do not know much Dutch, you are just sitting there, you are lying there, you are being there. And it's like 20, 25 minutes of Dutch, then someone remembers me. They are like, oh, Anupma. So, just to summarize, we discussed something 1 line or 2 lines. And I'm like, that's not even a summary. That's a linguistic mugging, equivalent to a war crime. It's not a summary. And, I remember my first team meeting, we were discussing something very big. All the biggest management were in that meeting, and I was too. I was also a small part of it because I recently joined the company, and they are like discussing something, and I nodded. I accidentally nodded at a bad news. They were like, they just looked at me, so what do you say? And I was like, okay. Apparently I agreed to fire Pete. Now I have all his unresolved trauma and escalations that I have to deal with. So yeah, and I remember it has been very tough for me to, manage in the Dutch-speaking office because everybody speaks that. So I just trying to be a listener, although I am never a listener. This was the longest where have I been kept quiet for 1 hour. I am never a listener. I'm always a speaker. Now some real talks. Okay, so here I have some tips for all the expats who are looking for a job. So tip number 1. Tailor your CV like it owes you money. Sprinkle Dutch buzzword like proactief, zelfstandig. if it sounds like spells from Harry Potter spin-off set up in Amsterdam, just use it. Until your CV basically screams that you are a Dutch now, you're not doing it right, dear. Up and use LinkedIn like Tinder. Swipe right to recruiters. Stalk the company profiles like you stalk your ex's new partner's profile. Okay? Slip into their DM with the confidence of someone who recently learned what synergy actually means. Full confidence. And bonus point, if you end every message with let's connect. All right? And now the third point is very, very crucial. Take Dutch classes that we discuss right here also. But not for fluency, no. You won't be fluent overnight, but for pity. You will get sympathy points. Oh, she's learning Dutch. Oh, how adorable. And it's not a joke. Dutch people really value for the people if you're learning their language. They literally value. But for you, you don't care for the value right now. No. For you, it's sympathy. All right? So it's not about speaking Dutch. It's about suffering publicly for clout, for sympathies. Yeah, that's the thing. And now join local group. We talked here. Lavanya also speak about the networking, how important it is. So networking is, everything. So join local groups, even the one that sounds like a cult. Everything is good. Facebook, meetups, even beta ball and support group. It's all networking. If there is a chances of free snack and awkward small talk, you are at the right place. Yeah, networking is all about, loitering business cards. So this is what I want to say. And another words, okay, this is another, I'm so sorry. Apply anyway. Dutch required, challenge accepted, LOL. Okay? HR copy-paste our job description like it's their side hustle. They are not very careful. Sometimes Dutch required might mean, fluency in Dutch might mean you are fluency in Dutch might mean you can say goedemorgen without even crying. So shoot your shot. Worst case, another rejection email for your collection? No problem. We have many. And be shamelessly persistent. Channel your inner Dutch bluntness. Dutch people are direct, you can be too. So go full Terminator with your follow-ups. No shame, just vibes. Yeah. And most importantly, remember you are not alone. We are here out here. Slightly confused, highly caffeinated, and fluent in rejection emails. And if nothing works, start a podcast that says unemployed but thriving. Yeah. So no, I do not speak fluent Dutch, but I'm fluent in smiling through the confusion, pretending that I know company strategy, vision, blah, blah. Negotiating shipping terms with nothing but just vibes. So I also applied once to 100 of jobs, cried over Netherlands were placht, but still survived with hope and humor and Google Translate. So thank you. Well, and one last thing to all the people who are employed here. If your company is hiring, please lie to me and say Dutch is not required. I am happily employed, but for the right offer, I can ghost my boss in 2 languages. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anupama. That was lovely. I think that resonates with many of us, some of the observations. Thanks a lot. Welcome back to our second segment on Global Voices. Good afternoon. And in this session, we are going to explore some stories, challenges, and leadership shaping our world today. I'm your host, Sanjay Sharma, and today we would dive into the powerful conversation about inclusive leadership, women's voices, building communities that thrive. Today we have 2 extraordinary guests with us, women who live and breathe leadership across cultures and industries. Our first guest is Tatiana San Luis. She's the founder of Inclusive Growth. She's a consultant, coach, speaker, specializing in DEI. And she's also an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You would tell about your venture. Please welcome Tatiana for the show. Joining her is Natalie Malis. She's president of AWC Den Haag, that is American Women's Club. She's a leader who fosters international connections and personal growth through various associations, women worldwide, and she's also a development coach, if I'm right. Is that correct?
Yep.
Thank you, both of you, for being here today and finding time for amidst your busy schedule. I would like to start with Natalie. You're working as president of AWC. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us about your organization, roles, responsibilities, or projects that you're currently busy with?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, AWC The Hague it started as the American Women's Club of The Hague. We are currently in our 95th year of being an organization here in The Hague. It's a nonprofit organization, and the main goal of this group is to bring together people from, we have 20 nationalities actually in our club, so it's not just American women now. We build bridges, build connection through friendship, through philanthropy, and outreach in our communities. So, but we do this in a way where it's a soft landing for internationals who come to the city, and either for the first time or moving back here as Dutch nationals, maybe who have lived abroad for a while. And so through social exchanges and activities that we do, speakers that come and speak to our group, as well as these, like I said, philanthropic efforts, we're really bridging this English-speaking community with the Dutch community. So that's basically what we do.
Actually, I was going to ask, is it only for American women? But you already mentioned it's 29 nationalities, so that it becomes a kind of like a misnomer,
Yes, and
in a way.
Yeah, it's changed over time. Basically, as the demographic of the city changes, the club has become more inclusive, I would say. Yeah.
And in this whole process, you have lived in different places, different countries?
Many of our... Right. So this is actually the first time I've lived outside of the United States.
Okay.
And the American Women's Club was one organization that I aligned with for the reasons for why your panel was speaking earlier. It's an easy country to come to when you're an English speaker, because everyone speaks English, and yet everything's written in Dutch, and there's so many things that you need to be able to learn quickly so that you can just get on with life. And I found such an incredible support from other women that had been expats, had lived this expat experience in other places. To kind of ease my nerves. You don't have to figure it all out tomorrow or yesterday, but it was really a sense of calm and a sense of support where I'm going to figure it out. We'll figure it out together, and then there's, like I mentioned, a lot of our members are Dutch nationals who they were posted through their jobs over the course of 20 or 30 years, and they come back to the Netherlands and realize, wow, I'm part of an international kind of mindset now, not necessarily just Dutch.
Yes, yeah.
And so they want to have the exchange with other professional people who have had varied, experiences in life. And one of our members is wonderful. She does a Dutch conversation group with us. So those of us that are trying to learn the language and assimilate more, she even offers that as like an informal thing. So it's been really lovely.
Perfect. Tatiana, you're a founder of Inclusive Growth and working in the field of DEI. For the layman, just explain what exactly this term means, inclusive growth. And there are certain, other acronyms related to DEI, like DEIB, etc. So can you just explain what they are and what your work is like?
Yeah, so diversity, obviously it's for the representation and demographics. And why inclusive growth was, the reason I chose it was because we don't have an issue with diversity. Diversity is happening, whether we like it or not. Every society, we're becoming extremely diverse. and mixed. So the challenge we have is more in every society, and I'll just say, I moved every 5 years on average to different places. So
that's quite something.
Yeah. So throughout everywhere I went to, whether it was in the Middle East or in the US or in Europe anywhere or in Asia. The challenge always ends up to be inclusive, and how do we create inclusive environments? How do we grow together, like in that we can leverage our differences, so that we can find our superpower as a society. And so that's how I ended up calling, my diversity, equity, and inclusion consultancy, Inclusive Growth. And then I started focusing. I started it when I moved here. Because specifically I knew it was COVID time, it was a good time to operate online, everything was virtual, so even the coaching was online, and I had a lot of international clients, as well as Dutch clients, and everything had to be in English because my Dutch wasn't good enough. I mean, I just moved to the Netherlands. I do speak fluent German, so that helps. I understand a lot, but it's more of entertaining if I try with my Dutch. And so it made it very easy for me to start off with inclusive growth here, with just having English as the key language for the work that I did, whether it was facilitating or coaching. Having said that, I worked with a lot of international companies, foremost actually. So
Okay, and that entrepreneurship bit?
And entrepreneurship comes. So as I said, I started, I was for 7 years in the diversity, equity, inclusion space. And more recently, I actually stepped away from this kind of work of training and facilitating, because I thought before I turned 50, I should do something that I really am passionate about, which is having a community space where I can invite everyone around food to meet and talk and connect, whether you speak Dutch or not in the Netherlands. So I actually started my own community space called ᅠ, which means our home. And it's a lunchroom, event space you can book, where we hope to also do community evenings, cultural evenings in the future. And the main purpose, again, it's about inclusive growth. I just started. I speak very little Dutch still. I would say, maybe 40% comes out Dutch and the rest comes out German or English. But people appreciate it. And since I have started this project, I met a lot of local entrepreneurs. I had to meet with a lot of suppliers. The interesting thing is, as I said, the society is very diverse. So if I couldn't manage with the little Dutch, there were always people who knew English, or they knew German, or they knew Arabic, which is another language that I speak. Okay. So actually, in fact, I managed pretty well to kind of get around everything in the startup process. And now as the place is open, I have a lot of community people walk in, and as before we heard, it's a very international city, but there are also a lot of Dutch locals, older people especially, who struggle with maybe English. But they were walking in, and we are speaking to each other. We are trying, and the point is always, it goes back to, just showing appreciation for trying. And so that's how this is now evolving. So this is now my new kind of role, being an owner of a little space called ᅠ.
Okay, wonderful. And you mentioned about language. How many languages do you speak, and how many countries have you covered?
Okay. People always say, you must be so talented with languages, but I'm not. I just happen to be trilingual. Okay. So I grew up with German, English, and Arabic. But I'll be very honest. I studied 5 years French. It's miserable. I studied Spanish. I think I was a bit better, but I just don't have enough to practice anymore. And then, I did Dutch to A-level, A2, but I gave up on it just because simply throughout my work, as I said, a lot of my clients, whether it was with the diversity work that I did or it was a lot with corporations, big companies, where English was actually the main language. So I didn't need to also develop further my Dutch. And now at this point with ᅠ, I also again say, I'm somehow flying it with the three languages we manage as a community. Yeah.
Okay. Natalie, you also are into development coach.
Yes.
What exactly is this field? Can you explain that?
Well, I started a coaching business when I was a real estate professional in the United States, finding that a lot of people would go into entrepreneurship and really not have the basis for what that means. So real estate attracts a lot of different people from a lot of different industries, and there's a low barrier to entry. So it's as much as you put into it, you're going to get back in terms of income or growth. And so I, through that experience, shifted and decided that I didn't want to just be working with people that were in the real estate industry, that I'd like to help others who want to learn the life of entrepreneurship, to develop their business of their dreams, whether it's like, is it Bajkna?
Yeah, Bajkna.
Bajkna. You know, to what does that look like? What is your vision? Helping people really, you know, cast a vision for the future that we can work as coach and client together to get to. And the development piece of that is that in order to grow into the new person that you are, there is a lot of self-reflection and a lot of mindfulness around what are the learned behaviors that maybe don't suit you anymore for this new life that you're living. So the capacity to grow is only a matter of how we perceive ourselves and our ability to grow. So now that I'm here, I actually was able to apply for a visa that's specific for what we spoke about, which is it's called the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty. And so through this visa between the Netherlands and the U.S., the Netherlands allows for entrepreneurs or self-employed people to come to the country for temporary residency and use this as a pathway to be able to, you know, make their own money. So if you're self-employed and you're bringing work, similar to how Tatiana brought her clients with her, that's what I did. So the clients that I had in the U.S. were my clients that I was able to continue working with. And my goal in my coaching business is to bridge the gap of the international population here that has a need for the services that I provide, as well as helping the Dutch companies here, really kind of ironically, or not, it's very coincidental, to say you have talent available to you. How can you kind of open your mind a little bit to not check the box of language and say this person is actually someone that would be incredible for your team. So I'd like to help people, not just entrepreneurs, but also others, empower themselves to have that confidence, to go for those jobs, to look for opportunities outside of their comfort zone, and trust themselves that they'll be able to get there.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe if I can add something, you know, and because I was listening into before, one thing that I found, you know, for me, it was a journey to come to this point over the years living here. It wasn't really per se the technical language itself. It was actually more the nonverbal language of, you know, like the culture, to understand. Because, you know, I would go to the gemeente, everything is English, right? I mean, they were amazing in advising me about my startup, you know, and giving me, like, telling me where to go, where to do. But to come to the point, and we did this in English, but to come to this point where I was comfortable understanding the translation of so in their mind, they're saying in Dutch and English something. And so you sometimes can get lost in translation. And I was really, I had these aha moments where I realized, because I lived long enough here, I knew what they meant when they were saying it in English. So I didn't take it, for example, too personal, because sometimes, you know, Dutch can be very direct. And when they translate something into another language, it, you know, can come across wrong. Right. But because I understood already, after living here 5 years now, I had context, you know, to what actually they are trying to say. So also communication, it's not, I would say it's actually more than the technical speaking, it's understanding, you know, the cultural background of what they're saying, you know, where this coming from, you know, the directness. It's not that they're being direct, it's just they don't sugarcoat, they peppercoat. It's like, you know.
They're efficient.
And sometimes they deep fry the truth. Yes, that was something I was reading. And so I think, it's really important to also understand. And when I took also coaching clients who were like in HR directors but from Dutch background, but working in English, you know, they are perfect in English, but they would be also struggling, saying to me, I don't know why they don't understand. And because let's say this was a person who came from India and speaks, you know, also perfect English, but has a different cultural experience, you
Right.
behind the language. And that's extremely important, which very often we oversee.
Yeah. The cultural map.
Yes, and understanding, the different languages, what they're saying with what they're saying, if that makes sense.
What happens in Spanish?
Yes.
Depending on my family's Cuban, so I'm fluent in Spanish, but Cuban sayings are different than Venezuelan sayings or Colombian sayings.
Exactly.
And so if you're not from the Latin American community, you may not understand that at all. And you'll learn Spanish from somebody that has a totally different context. But even within the Latin community, we have misunderstandings.
Yeah.
So it's to be able to broaden the lens in that way, particularly for a country that is pragmatic here in the Netherlands, that has, been adventurous and traveled the world through trade and all this, but to then apply those things that they may have maybe just knew how to do on their own, but do it in a holistic way within their own country as the world really, emerge or not. What is it called? The world converges here.
Yeah.
To then, kind of really have that same mindset.
Talking about the mindset, actually, because we just talked about your work, I would like to just dive a little bit deeper in your personal journey. Mm-hmm. So if you could tell me what inspired your journey into leadership, and if there was any that aha moment or eureka moment that you thought, like, that's the path I'm going to follow. Something that you can reflect.
I think I've always been inspired by other leaders. So other people early on in my life, having the experience of my life changing through the leadership of another person. And so there's a mindset around leadership that I very much subscribe to, which is to lead from behind, right? So oftentimes I can look at a person, I can meet a person, and I, through my processing and the way that I am as a person, can intuit what their potential is. And maybe they don't know what their potential is yet.
Yeah.
And so leading them from behind is to shepherd them to that place, not pull them to where it is or direct them to what it is to do. And so adopting that mindset, and I would say I chose to go into it as a profession because the first time you see the light switch turn on in someone's mind of, I can do this isn't, I can, I absolutely can. It will be challenging, but I will. And you see the commitment. It's almost like an addiction. I hate to say that, but it's true. You want to help the next person and the next person. And so, yeah, it's just...
Tatiana, for you?
Interesting question. For me, maybe it was a bit... it was a journey. I had unfortunately, a lot of terrible leaders around me.
Okay.
And for me, I think I had a pivotal moment when I was transitioning from a job to a job, and also a culture to culture. We're living in the Middle East in Cairo, and we're moving to the US, to Washington, D.C. And I took a job on, and I started realizing there was a pattern in the leaderships that I always had to deal with that was very, if I could say, old-fashioned. And the world is changing very fast, and it's and especially actually right now, we're a very volatile world. We don't know where it's going economically, politically, and very often I used to think a lot about, well, what does it really mean to be a good leader? And because it never worked with me. Every time I had these leaders just, wanting to inspire me by giving me motivational talks, or, I just didn't feel... it didn't work for me, and then I started having people to manage, and I realized I always thought of myself not being a leader. I didn't care to be a leader, and I think that was something one person told me, one of the assistants, like, that's why maybe we like you, because you just don't care to be a leader.
Right.
I'm not focused on that.
You don't want the applause.
I just wanted to solve the problems. And I think, and then I started going into diversity and inclusion work, and that's how I also then started doing inclusive leadership coaching, because for me, I realized the people that inspired me most, they were not necessarily leaders in their positions, but they were people who were very humble, and they were curious, and they were asking me questions about, what do I think about this problem, and how can, and so from observing and engaging with people that inspired me that were actually rather in the middle or low, it's just the word, not even like no title of leadership. I realized that leadership today is, from at least if you want to be an inclusive leader, you need to be self-reflective, self-aware. You need to be willing to challenge yourself to your assumptions of the world, and be open to have fluidity in your leadership. Allow others who are maybe not with a title inspire you and give you also their ideas, and that's where the humbleness comes in. And so that's how I ended up actually going into leadership training, like inclusive leadership, because for me that represents actually inclusivity, when you are a humble leader, someone who is really just driven by curiosity rather than I know it, I tell you what to do, because we don't. It's just every day a different scenario in our life, right?
Well, and you're also denying that organization, that team, the opportunity to have everyone play to their strengths. So if as a leader you're just telling or demanding or expecting without saying tell me your thoughts, share what it is that's that you see in this, because diversity is the norm. Diversity is not the exception, and everything is multifaceted. So the more perspective we can have as leaders, as groups or teams that are leading organizations, then and inviting more people to the table with those different perspectives and views, I mean, that's it. It's like the potential there is huge of what we can accomplish in this world and make it less volatile. Hopefully, right? And that's the goal is.
I think if I remember, the best boss I had was a boss who said to me when I went in and I said, I don't know what to do with this problem, and I put the scenario out, and he looks at me and said to me, Tatiana, I also don't know. Let's think about it.
Yeah, that's so.
And I was like, what? You're my boss.
That's humble. That's humble.
That was maybe the one boss that actually I would say until today I really fondly think of, and I think that was also a pivotal moment in my life in terms of leadership.
That's a very good point actually. That I'm tempted to know. Generally we are inspired by so many things, and our worldview is shaped, changed, by many factors. So in your case, and both of you, is it a birthplace, upbringing, parents? Who has shaped your worldview that you have today?
Oh, it's a good one. I mean, a part of my coaching, I'm certified in what we call the intercultural development continuum. So I do a lot of value work with people when we start coaching. And I had to do it with myself also because obviously if I want to coach people in, finding their essence, like what drives them, what values carries them, I had to also do it a lot with myself. And I think, with the years I came to realize what impacted me more is the values that my family gave to me. My father is Muslim, my mother is Christian, Palestinian German. I moved every 5 years on average in my life, so there was not much for me to build on something called national identity. There was also nothing much to build on terms of feeling close to a territory or anything. The only thing I had that I always was taking with me in a suitcase every time we moved was the values and that my parents and the family around me instilled in me, which was very much based on generosity, resilience, and care for each other. And so that is something that really shapes everything I do. And I realize also now with my place, Beitna, it's exactly what it's a home. It's a home. It's a home for everyone. And everything I do, the way I cook, the way I present, it reflects my values. That's what I was given by my family over the years growing up. Yeah.
How about you, Natalie?
I love that answer.
You like that answer?
I do.
But you cannot copy it.
Well, I can't copy it, but it resonates with me because I come from my parents were migrants, so my parents were political refugees from Cuba coming to the United States, a country that welcomed them and gave them the opportunity to be able to realize the lives that were taken, their futures that were taken from them as young people. And so my worldview, I think, was shaped from a young age without even realizing that at any moment that whatever solid ground you're standing on can shift very suddenly.
Yeah.
And we see that, I mean, your lived experience, your lived experience, we have all been touched by that. And so, and I also grew up going to a parochial school where service was very important. And so we always had, I developed a servant's heart from that place. And it's just within me to want to know from curiosity how I can serve and help other people, whether they have the same lived experience than I or not. And so from a very young age, I was curious about other people's lived experiences, and I was blessed with the opportunity to be able to travel quite a bit through my early adolescence and then into my adulthood and living in big cities. Like I was educated at New York University. I was surrounded by people from all walks of life, and talk about a place where every nation is represented. New York that is the city in the United States that's that way, and we found a way to learn about each other. I mean, I just loved connecting the small pieces of how we are the same, and then cherishing those ways of and learning of how we're different, because that's what makes the world beautiful. So it's not that we're going to all melt together, but that we can all be kind of in harmony together. So
perfect. In this whole journey of leadership, I want to bring this element of the women's voices. Obviously, it is considered, or more and more, it's being talked about the importance. But it's not just like joining the table, but also shaping the agenda. In your opinion and observation, what do you think? How far have we come, and how far still we have to go?
I left corporate America 15 years ago, no more, 20 years ago. So I used to work in a corporate environment and had an interesting experience in the entertainment industry as well as in the healthcare industry as a woman. And as a woman, a minority woman also. And then I shift gears and go into entrepreneurship with my husband, which was a godsend because we charted our path. And it didn't really influence, okay? I guess I just had a naivete in terms of confidence at that point. Because a couple years ago, I did an International Women's Day workshop with a group of international students, all women, female, or identifying as women. And I opened the workshop with the question, what are your greatest challenges, gender challenges in the workplace? What are your greatest fears going into the industry of your choice? They were the same. That tells me a lot, that in 20 years we have not come very far. It was very concerning to me as a woman who I put up with what I put up with because I kind of had to. And now we're supposedly I should believe that we have equity. Yeah. I should believe that at this point we have come further, and yet something's missing. There are pieces of that puzzle that are not connecting exactly, whether it's because culturally from the different places that these women were coming from to come to the Netherlands to study, or whether it's really we just really haven't come far enough. It's like the DEI conversation. How deep are we really going? Are the leaders just superficially learning the lingo and but not really embodying this concept of inclusivity? Women are part of that concept. We are 50% of the population of the world. Inclusion should be part of that. It shouldn't even be a question anymore, but it is.
It is.
Yeah.
I think we are even going in the wrong direction.
Backward, yeah.
Yeah, and that's in every society. I mean, just talking about AI, I had a conversation with a group about AI, and it's extremely, this is the future, right? Look how many women work in that field, in that space. Finance, investments, looking anything that where lucrativity is and the future lies, you still don't see women in much. But I want to touch on something else that, for me as a woman growing up in the Arab world and in the Western world, one thing that I always experienced, no matter where I lived and no matter with what cultures I interacted, is that I felt what in my generation at least, I very much focused on women. You can do it. You can do whatever a boy does. But I realize I do think sometimes we forgot about the boys.
That's a very good point.
I think we forgot to educate my brothers, for example, my cousins, and what it means to be an emancipated man. I think it goes to the mindset, to again, deeper cultural roots, traditions, and what they think a man should be, or and having conversations. I think we missed the opportunity to have conversations with our male counterpartners around what it means to move forward as equal partners in societies. And I lived in India for a year. I have, my husband is Filipino. I have and I can tell you, right now, for example, my husband is very supportive with my business, but at the end of the day, he also always thinks that I'm going to be the one who says what has to be bought for the house. We need milk for tomorrow. We need this for that. You need to pick up the kid. You need to take her to the gym. She had, and so at the end, I remain still. He does everything, but at the end, it remains all still. I am still the house.
You're the nucleus.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it takes away from me space to breathe and to focus on the startup. And I don't blame him. I know it's coming from it's a structural, it's a cultural challenge. Yeah. And so I am very much focused on teaching my son, who's 15 now, more than my daughter who's 7. I'm focused very much on him to make him understand what it means to care, to step up, to do the kitchen when we don't come home, Jai, go get the kitchen done. And he's starting to take responsibilities. And I'm seeing also in this generation of boys with his friends, I'm seeing now finally this conversation about what does it mean to be a guy, to be, and it's thankfully not anymore this idea of an alpha male, and that's giving me hope. So honestly, I have hope, but I do think we're a bit my generation. I think we lost an opportunity to include the boys at that time when we were growing up, and I think they have a lot. It's a struggle it's a struggle between the female and the male, and I think we're really seeing it now play out in policies in the world. If you look around, why things are not working out because there's a clash, but because I think we have missed an opportunity of including and having conversations with our sons while we were growing up.
Yeah.
So very interesting, because actually you have touched upon 2 points which I was planning to ask in the next one, because recently I read somewhere about Iceland, because Iceland is the country which has it's narrowed the gender gap to more than 90%, 95%. So that's an excellent case, but they still have a long way to go. I mean, if that is the explanation. In terms of AI, what I wanted to know, we are living in the age of real-time communication, AI, technology, and whatnot. Do you think this social media, etc., it has helped women to rise faster, rise farther, or you still think that women are constrained by religious, cultural, or political norms? Who would like to take?
I mean,
I think you touched upon a little bit of that already.
Yeah.
Something that you said lends itself to this point too, which is ultimately still, from a societal standpoint, women are the epicenter of their family. And so if you are a woman that wants to pursue you have professional aspirations for yourself, and you want to be a mother, you want to have a family, there's still ultimately it's almost like there's a fork in the road implicit in that choice. And so where I think social media could help, and where maybe AI can step in a way that could potentially help bridge this gap, is that, why not show those challenges and be honest and upfront about it? Because I think that what happens with social media to a certain extent is that we put on a facade, and we like to say, this is my persona over here of my business. This is who I am as a professional. Here's who I am as a working mom, or but it's all made to look nice. And the reality is that life is messy. And if we're going to teach our children how to live, and collaborate so that it's not so messy, so that everybody can have the space and the time and the energy to actually really be able to fulfill what their purpose is, themselves as an individual, as part of a family, then as part of a smaller community, and so on and so forth, then we have to admit that there's messiness. Not everybody's going to do it right all the time.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to have the same types of, capacity at certain points when they're launching a business, or when they're maybe, they have children who are teenagers.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing, right? So it's just really being honest. I think using it from an authentic standpoint or place really could help move the conversation forward.
I think social media is just, again, it's the virtual world reflecting the real world and the mindsets that are existing already. So yes, it's a tool that can advance us as women to achieve it is a great tool. For example, I must say I use ChatGPT and DeepSeek for when I started my business and I had to do business plans, and it's a great consultant in a way. But I'm also super aware there's a deep bias. It's a male developed
exactly
right
virtual world,
well,
right?
And all of the internet, the research and everything is
you have to be aware of those things, right? The other thing with social media is, because I have a teenage now and I see how they interact with this, it's interesting. I really have a ambiguous relationship with it. I'm thinking with my daughter, for example, I don't want to give her any phone or social media until she's 16, because I see how actually it really creates, I think girls are I'm glad I grew up in the time still before social media, put it that way. So I can only speak from personal experience. I do think social media can be extremely damaging for girls, because of the world we grow up in, which is still a lot about our appearance, about how we look, and we see this in social media reflected. Posing, putting a picture, a face on, and if nobody likes it within the next 5 minutes, I delete it, and there's a lot of stress. And I don't see the same with, for example, the boys. And in fact, I had a conversation with my son about it, and he said, "Yeah, the girls have always an issue with that, And so I don't know if it's helping, not because I don't think it has potential to be a helpful tool, but I do see how it's hijacked by our old ways of what we expect from women, what we want from women, and like you say, I don't do this, I'm the business owner of this, and then afternoons I'm a mom. No, I don't. I'm me. I'm Tatiana. Right. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a mother. I'm a partner. I'm a friend. And all this is me, and there's no perfection around it. So I personally, when I chose to go on Instagram for my business, because I actually debated whether I should, I said, if I do it authentically as I believe I should be doing it. I'm not going to I'm not going to put makeup on for the pictures. I'm not going to, the food that I'm doing is authentic photo. I'm not staging, because it takes a lot of energy away, and I need to focus now. So I think it depends how you use it. And all this technology is amazing, with the caveat if we understand that it's only a product of our culture societies and what we do with it.
My God, I feel like revolting now, because I've got so many questions. I'm enjoying this conversation and I'm so little time. So it's quite frustrating. Let me just ask you a couple of questions. We have 3-4 minutes left. You both are accomplished coaches, and coaching is all about unlocking potential. What is the most transformative coaching session or insight that you have seen in action? Would you like to start?
Most transformative was a couple of years back. I worked with a client who she was facing a lot of fear around a shift that she wanted to make. This ties a little bit into the concept of like financial literacy with women, and the real understanding of how far our money can go and how to invest it and do all these different things. And we got her to the point, and we coached for about 6 months, and we got her to the point where she was able to let go of the old stories that if I don't do this the right way, or that it's perfect, or that I, have amassed all of this savings, then then I can't take the next step forward. And we, developed a plan that helped her see that she had the capacity to slowly, down, kind of off ramp from one to go to the next. And it was transformative because she was a single mom. She had a lot of pressures on her, and it was beautiful to see that I was just simply reflecting back her own strength, to just be there as a container for her to build the confidence in our coaching conversations was really a transformative moment.
For you, Tatiana?
Difficult one. I think in general, for me, because I work with very powerful tools, which is the cultural development continuum and the Barrett value model. So a lot of my work when I do inclusive leadership coaching, I unpack with my clients their value system, what are the deeper fears and limitations, and to understand what stops them, because values are always good. There's no wrong value, right? But what we need to understand is those motivations. And I think for me, always these aha moments when my clients, go like, oh my God, I never thought how this is limiting me of understanding my colleague, from their perspective. Because again, everything is so grounded in the cultures we grow up in. And a lot of it is based on how we, engage with others, is based on assumptions of how we think it should be, or what's right and wrong. We think we know what professional English is, for example, so I think for me, it's generally in every, using these tools, I think every time I coached leaders on those tools, it was always this moment where they kind of realized, maybe it's not necessary that it just can be this way. This person comes with these value sets, and we have the same goal in mind, but they're just operating differently because of their, experiences.
Life experience,
yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that is, for me, always the most beautiful moment, because I do see then how they always get back to and say, this has really changed the way I work with my team, or how I approach, people in my office. Yeah, so I think I would say just... Yeah.
Wonderful. I have only 2 minutes, so
yes.
I'll give you each one. And that is just so frustrating, as I said. Last question. What is that one piece of advice you give to your clients and also often remind yourself of daily?
Progress ahead of perfection. I do work with a lot of women, and I think we have been trained to be perfect, and that progress is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And for you, Tatiana?
I would say yes, to let go of trying to have everything be perfect, and for me to stop overthinking and doubting myself. And I think a lot of times as women, what holds us back is that we always are doubting ourselves. Yeah. And one of the best advices I had recently was really stop thinking, just do. Do every day one thing at a time. And that brought me, really to the venture now that I have.
Thank you so much. Wish we had more time, but I'd like to thank you for this engaging stories and insightful conversation. We look forward to having more time in the time to come. And to our viewers, thank you for tuning in today on this lovely Saturday. We will be back on Saturday, October 25, with our Dutch election special Expaterience. So until then, take good care of yourself and your loved ones. On behalf of our RTV Discuss team here, this is your host, Sanjay Sharma, wishing you a lovely day ahead. Bye for now.